Greetings, everyone. My name is Maggie Lawilla from South Sudan, and I'm excited to welcome you to the third edition of the World YWCA Bulletin Dove panels, themed Still Here, Centering Survivors' Voice and Agency. Some of you are joining us through Zoom and others through the live broadcast on Facebook. And to each and every one of you, a warm welcome and a big thank you for being here with us today. Today, we'll be hearing from the life experiences and context of our amazing panelists from Iran, South Sudan, Ukraine, and Myanmar, and from our moderator, YWCA Aisha from Rwanda. Please feel free to use the chat box in Zoom and comments in Facebook to send your greetings. And please do let us know where you're joining us from. And as the event is running, we welcome your questions in both Zoom and Facebook. We will try as much as possible and as time allows us to respond to them. Kindly note that this panel will be conducted in English. Please also note that this event will be 1.5 hours long. And before we start, allow me to share a few housekeeping announcements. Please note that this session is part of the Bullet and Dove panel by World YWCA. By joining this session, everyone who will have the opportunity to speak consents to their image and audio being broadcast. By participating in the panel, you have agreed to behave professionally to promote the principles of respect, diversity, and inclusion, as well as to actively prevent and not engage in any abusive behavior of any kind that leads to any harm, prejudice, discrimination, or harassment against any person. We encourage viewers to adhere to these principles and be respectful to everyone and sensitive to their cultural realities, experience, and expression. We recognize that freedom of expression for anyone is important, but we emphasize the principles to treat all other people with dignity at all times. If you do not adhere to these principles, you will be removed from the panel, as World YWCA does not accept abusive behavior of any kind. At this point, I would like to issue a trigger warning. This panel discussion includes real-life stories and accounts of violence and sexual violence. This may be triggering to some. As this is a sensitive topic, we seek to maintain an atmosphere of emotional safety for our panelists and would like to retain this as a safe space. I humbly request that we demonstrate compassion throughout this webinar. Thanks in advance for your cooperation and for being with us here today. And without any further announcements from me, it is with great pleasure that I now give the floor to World YWCA's General Secretary, Casey Harden, to provide welcoming remarks. Casey, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Maggie, for the introduction to the event today. I extend a hello and a very warm welcome to everyone who's joined us here today from across the world to listen to the voices of remarkable women and young women activists from around the world. I want to start my remarks by quoting a YWCA leader from Belarus, Vera. She said, "For now, women mostly take informal roles in conflict resolution. They do invisible service work, they care for victims, and they support the infrastructure. But here's the question, would it be the same if women were equally involved in the processes of decision-making? Perhaps things would be different." I agree with Vera. We all know that women are often seen as invisible service givers and providers as war happens, but very often when conflicts happen, they do all the supportive and leadership work on the front lines and community with very quick, relevant, necessary responses. But that is while they're also being the primary victims and survivors of violence. Very often we only hear about those women when they're killed or when there's witness, overt witness to the abuse or violence. For those that survive to tell their stories, we ask ourselves, how is it that their voices can reach decision-making tables? And how do we ensure that they not only have space at the table, but actually they're there to do their work as they do during the time of conflict in order to ensure policies and processes reflects their experience and their wisdom. World YWCA's approach to peace and justice work is as close to our history as to our present and future. As a movement, we have more than 40 resolutions that support the work of UNSCR 1325 and 2250, the work of peace and justice, and especially peace with justice and how it intersects with sexual and gender-based violence, mental health, and access to rights overall. We see an intersection as well that is a key to pushing things forward and achieving our goal of transforming power structures. And that's how all these things intersect with the leadership of girls, young women, and women. We actively advocate for governments and international institutions to acknowledge and prioritize women, young women, and girls' participation in peace processes at all levels. We advocate for the provision of safe spaces and resources for women, young women, and girls in conflict and post-conflict countries, and in countries in transition to build leadership skills, gain knowledge, and demand rights, actively engaging in peace and reconciliation efforts. And we advocate for gender transformative policies and practices which underscore young women's rights as human rights. The Bullet and Dove Initiative, we very intentionally combine storytelling with on-the-ground evidence and really sharing and witnessing the leadership of women and young women in conflict spaces so that we push for policy and process changes that are significant and really move and affect change. Through Bullet and Dove, we aim to bring attention to the human rights and protection needs of diverse women, young women and girls in conflict, and to share stories on peace building, especially that integrate SRHR and SGBV. The present situation in so many countries worldwide continues to negatively impact women's human rights defenders. Last week at World YWCA, we centered survivors through our Week Without Violence campaign, and we were witness to how so many women's human rights defenders, young women, face violence. That's why we're reinforcing the need to continue to listen to stories from the ground and to not turn away, and really amplify and lift up the voices of those that are most impacted, which I spoke of before, which often don't have a voice unless tragedy has happened and somehow that's hit mainstream media across the world. So through today's panel, each of you will hear and listen to the experiences of all these incredible women that are on the panel with their witness to the reality that they have experienced or are experiencing, and certainly that they anticipate to continue to experience. We really hope that in bearing witness to their experiences that you are driven to take action. And that's our call to action to you today, which is to really consider, what does this mean to you? What does it mean to be in witness today and for you moving forward after we're done? Our moderator for today is a fantastic colleague and brilliant young woman from Rwanda. Aisha Awose is a young Rwandan feminist who works as a girls' ambassador with the YWCA of Rwanda. She's fervently committed to empowering women in leadership, economic, and social spheres of life. She's also currently engaged as a digital consultant with World YWCA. I had the pleasure of meeting Aisha and working a bit with her when I was in Kigali sometime last year, and was just so excited to follow her leadership, to see her in action, leading safe spaces for women, and to hear all about what she does. She's a powerful human rights defender. With that, over to you, Aisha.
Thank you, Casey, for a great introduction and strong remarks. we advocate for different levels to acknowledge um, and see women's role in what we are doing. And we need safe spaces for women. That's why we are here. We are still centering survivors' voice and urgencies. We are here to raise our voices about these issues. We are here to show what women are doing. And as she said, I'm from Rwanda, a country that has been in hard time some years ago of genocide against Tutsi in 1994. Actually, that was before I was born, but we are in a journey of rebuilding, but facing the intergenerational trauma for women and other people around us. I will not talk more about Rwanda, but I want everyone who is here, anywhere that you are sitting, in your office, at your couch, in your room, anywhere that you are, welcome, and thank you for joining us, joining this important conversation that we are going to have with our panelists whom agreed to share their experiences today. We are with brilliant, courageous, young and women from Iran, Myanmar, Ukraine, South Sudan, who are going to share the ground experiences. That's why we are raising our voices, and I will let them introduce themselves, but also sharing what is the situation in your country. I don't want to take much of their time. Without further ado, I will hand over to Shiva from Iran. Please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about the situation in Iran and how is it affecting women from Iran. Over to you, Shiva.
Uh, Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me in this important panel today. I'm Shiva Nazarahari. I'm a feminist and women's rights activist from Iran. Currently live in Europe. I left Iran 4 years ago. I'm a member. I'm a campaigner and researcher at Femina. Femina is an organization that which is working to support women human rights defender and feminist movement in MENA region. I've been working with Femina for about 3 years. And now, before, when I was in Iran, I was working as a human rights defender and also women's rights defender. I was also in jail for a while because of my activism. So about the situation here in Iran, well, I think you all know, you all heard about Iran in the last 40 days. We have seen a massive rebellion against the Islamic regime in Iran during the last 40 days when Mahsa Amini died while being held by the police. A protest was started. Mahsa Amini was a 22 years Kurdish woman who was traveling to Tehran to visit her relatives. She was arrested by morality police, and a few hours later, she went into a coma, and after 3 days, she died. Since then, thousands of people have been rallying in daily demonstration all around the country. They have been attacked and beaten by security forces, killed, arrested, and tortured every day. But these brave people, these brave women are still fighting against the regime and saying this time is different. We won't give up, we won't go back, and we won't put up with this patriarchal system anymore. They desire to alter the entire system. If we want to discuss how the context affects women, I should start by saying that women are leading this struggle in Iran now. It follows that the regime, which has always treated women as second-class citizens, oppressed them to follow discriminatory laws, and degraded them in daily life, cannot tolerate this disobedience and will do whatever it takes to put an end to it. In such circumstances, they are the ones who have to pay the most. In the last 40 days, hundreds of women have got in prison. Tens of WHRDs have been detained. Tens of women protesters have been killed in the street during the protests. And just 2 days ago, the intelligence services of Iran made a statement and accused 2 women journalists, Nilufar Hamedi and Elahe Mohammadi, who revealed the death of Mahsa Amini, of working for the CIA. So you can see that the current situation affects all women, whether they are protesting or not. We've heard from several sources that every day a lot of women are being arrested while they are just, coming from work, coming home from work, or just going to shopping. This is because all women are now seen as enemies by security forces. It seems like they are trying to make society unsafe for women and show them that this is what you get if you want freedom. So I stop here, but if you want to know more, I will explain.
Thank you, Shiva. A very hard thing to understand. Being a citizen of a country, being a woman makes you an enemy for the security. But let me not comment more, but move on to Ilna. Ilna, kindly introduce yourself, but also share how is the situation we have here from Shiva, the situation from Iran, and there are so many information newses out there from Ukraine. Ilna, please tell us how is it in Ukraine, how our women are being affected with the situation, but also tell us briefly about you. Over to you, Ilna.
Hello, everyone. My name is Irina. I'm from Ukraine, Kiev. 8 months ago, dark days began for every Ukrainian. This morning in Kiev was heavily bombed by Russia. At this moment, family and my family also are in bomb shelter. Now there is, I think, a genocide of Ukrainian people. War affects women no less than men. That is like to be a modern woman living in beautiful Ukraine and suddenly lose everything: home, loved ones, security, and familiar world. We see some and most common requests and complaints when seeking help are this month of the war, as well of the other hard days, Russia has destroyed our infrastructure. At the moment, 40% of the power industry has been destroyed. It may happen that we still be without electricity and heat this winter. Every day the electricity is cut off twice a day. Sometimes people sit without electricity for 8 hours. A young woman with a small child yesterday has stuck in the elevator for 4 hours. The blackout schedule that was posted in advance doesn't work, as electricity can be cut off by overload. Also, there is a lot of unemployment in the country, and many women are having a hard time. Because of the war, many enterprises were moved into the other country or closed. Personally, I have lost my job for 8 months, and it is unrealistic to find a new one. Many women cannot work at all. Some of them are disabled. Others have sick parents or children with disabilities. Finding a job, at least if you are 35 plus years, is almost impossible. Every second family has old people. 46% of families have children. Every fourth family has people with disabilities. Almost every 10th has pregnant women. Every third has chronically ill people in family. So many stories from different women who we communicate and trying to help in our YWCA of Ukraine. There are currently more than 200,000 internally displaced persons from South region to Kiev and west of Ukraine. Most of them are women with children and old parents. We try to help to different women and know a lot of stories from them. My personal story about that I lost my home. My apartment was in Irpin, and the apartment was destroyed, and my family faced with the problem of where we have to live. I lost my job due to the war and have been looking for the job a long time. Also, my other family, with a 17-year-old girl contact me for advice. The girl, she was raped by Russian soldiers during the attack in the Bucha town. The girl was pregnant after being raped. She's shocked and depressed because she don't know what to do next, to have an abortion or not. And this is not just one story. Such stories still take place in the occupied territories of Ukraine. And it breaks my heart and all Ukrainians. The girl's parents ask me what to do, because this girl so young, she's 17 and she's a pupil in the school. The story of my colleague, the woman with a small child and old parent, found it herself under the rubble of her house after the bombing Kharkiv. She was under rubble about 5 hours, and the child and parents died. They couldn't be saved. After that happened, she didn't want to leave and made suicide attempts, but remained. She's alive now. She lost any meaning of life. She lost her parent, her most precious things for her, precious her little daughter and housing. She was no point to live anymore, and we know a lot of stories like that. Sometimes our heartbreak, and we like don't know how to help this.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you, Ilna. Irina, can hear the situation is not that easy, and during those kind of situations, women are the most affected ones, because society looks them as weak people. They are the ones who are with babies. They are being affected in different ways, and that's why we are here. We are here to raise voices, but also stand in solidarity with those women who are in hard time. Without further ado, I will go to you, Doha. Please introduce yourself, but also share a little bit about the situation now in Myanmar.
Hello, everyone. My name is Noor Jugle. I currently work at YWCA is of Myanmar as a rising young woman leads. Basically working with women and young women, advocating for transformative leadership, feminist values and principles, human rights and skill building against sexual and gender-based violence. Let me share the conflict context of Myanmar. And the 2021 coup returned Myanmar to military rule and shadow, hope for democratic progress beset by decades of conflicts and repressive regime. Myanmar has now entered a violent new chapter. We have experienced a series of forced and relocation and displacement. In 2021 coup, internet displacements and forced relocation again. Now in my city town, churches have provided shelter for IDPs. According to this, millions of people are facing hungers and tens of thousands have fled to other parts of Myanmar or across the border. Because of the coup, Myanmar has become a falling stage. Yeah. And then older people have also been put at risk by the increasing violence and attack on villages by the Myanmar military. While their family members have fled to safety, they are mostly left behind in emergency situation. Older people being shot and killed or physically exhausted by Myanmar armed force. Yeah. And then massive protests erupted nationwide in the week after the coup, and tens of thousands of people, including health worker, banker, and teacher, joined what was originally a peaceful civil disobedience movement, refusing to go to work until the elected government returned to power. Yeah, but the junta has arrested more than 8,000 people, including journalists, medical workers, and politicians. Over the past 16 months, Myanmar military has killed at least 142 children. Meanwhile, 142 children has been tortured and at least 61, including several industries, are reportedly being held hostage. Yeah. Clashes between ethnic groups and the military were occurring in most of the country. Notably, violence is not limited to the areas on Myanmar borders that have large ethnic minority population, but is also occurring in major central cities such as Mandalay, Yangon. Armed conflicts, forced relocation, human rights violation, and such widespread violence has led thousands of civilians to flee into neighboring India and Thailand. The lesson I want to tell you is that the country there is obviously unrest, robbery, murders, and rape. And then women are involved in an effort by civil war as victims, survivors, and agents of conflicts and peace in specific ways, which are often different from the experiences of men. In fact, although men have been the higher casualty in combat, it is very often women in Myanmar who have been the prime victims of conflict, whether through sexual violence, human trafficking, and other right abuses or such indirect consequences as reduced access to clean water and health service, the increase in female-headed household, and the inordinate burden for women and girls in conflict zones.
Mm. Mm. Thank you, though. The struggle is real, but having people like you there gives the world a hope that things will change, and you are doing a great work that we hope the world will recognize and we acknowledge, as we started saying. I want to move on to Priska, our young activist from South Sudan, a country that is in a rebuilding process from the war. Priska, what was the situation in South Sudan? What happened, and how did it affect women from South Sudan?
Yeah, thank you so much. Good morning to everyone. It's morning in South Sudan. I am called Priska Axon from South Sudan, a woman activist. To talk about the conflict context in South Sudan that affect women and girls, it is a terrible situation in South Sudan. South Sudan is one of the young country, independence, but the region has the longest conflict situations. Over 20 years ago, they have been in civil war. And also recently in 2016, there have been, they had a civil war. But the situation now is that we have insecurity in many ways that affect women and girls. I'm talking about the dangerous weapons that results into insecurities for women and girls in South Sudan. Women and girls in South Sudan are not safe because of violence, sexual gender-based violence against them. So we don't have voice. That is it. Women and girls doesn't have voice in South Sudan because of insecurity. They use force to grab our young girls. There's 72% of age range from 15 to 19 teenage mothers now in South Sudan, and they're still facing challenge of harassment, sexual gender-based violence in all communities. The internal power struggle triggered political instability, inter-ethnic differences, and also inter-communal violence in the country. As I talk now, women and girls in all the states are suffering from inter-communal violence. This is cattle riding, is a very big case in our state here. In South Sudan, they value cattle more than our girls and women. So now, as I talk now in my community, in one of the states, there's an inter-tribal war going on. It has taken now like 4 months now, and it has displaced over 3.9 million people. And women who are displaced are not involved in the peace building in South Sudan. So the ones in the camps and the ones in South Sudan are left behind in this advocate. So if you go to the war zone country now, I mean war zone area state where women are suffering so much, you get this war affects them so much in very many ways. They're innocent people. Yes, they're innocent people. They don't involve in these things, but they're the ones suffering the most, because instead of them fighting, they take advantage of young women and girls. They are raped forcibly. They are raped and killed and left there. Intimate partners also kill their partners who are women. This is because of difference in ethnicity. Your tribe is different, you have different culture, but we are together as married couples. But when such issues come in, it becomes a very big problem. So the killing, the violence that women go through in South Sudan is so much. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you, Priska. And thank you, people who joined us. I can see you are with us and you are standing in solidarity with women in these countries whom are facing hard time of life, of course, but also fighting for their rights. Thank you. I can see you're standing in solidarity with Ukraine, Myanmar, Iran. Thank you. And back to Shiva. Shiva has also shared with you a report they have published that is showing some women who was arrested in 40 days ago. Back to you, Shiva. You mentioned something that is women are the ones who are reading this struggle now. Although they are taken as enemies to the securities. But I would like to know how are women across ages with different generations the elders and young women who are growing in this kind of situation, how are they responding to this challenge, like growing in these kind of situations? What are they reading as they are reading the struggles? What are they doing, like in the schools, in universities, even on the street? Because where they are even taken from being arrested, those young girls who are growing up finding the struggles already there, how are they responding to it? And how are they even being affected? Like finding yourself in this kind of situation, growing up, and you find already, you should say, like being a woman in your country is a challenge, is a problem. How are they responding to it? Over to you, Shiva.
Yeah, as you also mentioned, being woman in Iran is a really challenge and is very hard. I should mention the history of women's movement in Iran in order to respond to this question. Because they have had a significant role on what we are seeing now in Iran. Iran's women's movement has a century-long history. In other words, we have been struggling for equal rights for a century. Unfortunately, we lost a lot of achievements following Iran's Islamic Revolution, and we went back a long way. The mandatory hijab was one of the first laws against women. But how did women react and deal with these challenges and these problems with never-ending and daily struggle? We should keep in mind that we are talking about a country where the authority cracks down hard on opposition groups. Women right after the Islamic Revolution, women held a protest march against the mandatory hijab law. They said that they had joined the revolution to get equality and freedom, not to go backward. But these rules were tragically put into effect due to the repression and brutality against the demonstration. But the struggle persisted. The feminist movement has attempted to combat this inequality and discrimination over the past 40 years by organizing protests, promoting societal awareness in various ways, and challenging this discriminatory legislation. Also, women and girls had a very important role in the student movement. In the university, the student care have always been very active in the student movement. They were sometimes leading the student movement and trying to challenge all the problem and this discrimination in the society as well. In general, women have been resisting discriminatory laws for the past 40 years on a daily and ongoing basis. In the last 10 years, this is important because what we are seeing in Iran now is kind of relates to what happened in the last 10 years, especially. In the last 10 years, this problem and these challenges and the fights between women and the governments have gotten worse and more violent. Women were routinely subjected to abuse, humiliation, and detention because in the government's eyes, they weren't donning proper hijab. The women's movement and feminist activists were repressed and imprisoned. However, they were unable to overcome the resistance of women and or community. But how is this resistance and this challenging with governments affecting our daily lives? I can say it has had an impact on many things. You as a woman is oppressed if you decide to fight against and respond to these circumstances. People who agree with the government or the morality police could attack you on the street because they have power. They try to make it risky for women who stand up to them. And feminists and WHRDs who fight for equal rights are punished by sending them to prison and giving them long prison sentence. Many of them have to leave the country. And in the last 40 days, many brave women who protested in the streets were arrested or killed. This is the cost we incur, and this is the result of our resistance to these circumstances. But what I can say in general is how we react to these challenges with ongoing struggle. That this struggle is part of our daily life, and women are challenging this problem every day.
Thank you, Shiva. That resistance, we reached something that the world will see, because I know the struggle won't stay forever. There's a time that the voice we are raising now will be held, and all that have that in their power might do something. And we shouldn't be always under patriarchy. And as the system has been built for so long, also the changes might not come in one day, but we are hoping to see it coming. Same question to you, Irina. We saw so much about Ukraine, but the stories about how women are being affected, how women are working on this, are not there, are not being shared out there. You have mentioned something area of women in areas of nursing or medical areas helping. How are they? You mentioned something about being having disabled, not getting a job and employment. But how are women trying to read this process? What are they doing as people who are affected differently and in a unique way? How are they responding to this? What are they doing now? Over to you, Irina.
In Ukraine, young women are trying to find work. Sirens and bombing happened every day, and because of this, it's not possible to work. If you have work, for example, the electricity also go out every day. It's like stopped. And schools and kindergarten are currently closed and open just online for children, and women can't also go to work if you have, for example, work. Many women with children, around 5 million, have moved to other country to save their life and their children. Women who now live in European countries face a lot of difficulties also. This is, for example, accommodation and financial security, insecurity. Women cannot provide for themselves and their children because they do not know the language of the country in which they live. At the moment, I'm also in France with my son because our school also closed and we have continue our studying. women, our women, they try to be strong. They try to go and to help the men. And a lot of women can't leave our country, can't leave Ukraine because they are our husbands, our sons, our families in Ukraine. And some of women went to army and they are soldiers as a men as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Irina, for sharing. Although challenges are still there, but also you're doing great. You're fighting for the future. I would like to come to Priska. Priska, there is something that Irina mentioned about women with disabilities. And we know that women, although we are talking about in general how women are being affected, but women are not homogeneous. They are not homogeneous group. Also within women's group, there are still those who are facing more challenge. Depends with their barriers, having disability in one way or another. How are women, because every country that is coming or is still in the war, one of the things that is high is seeing people with disabilities from the war. That is one of the consequences of the war. How are they, women, being treated, especially those with disabilities? How are they being treated in the communities in South Sudan? Over to you, Priska.
Thank you so much, moderator. I would like to highlight, not much, but highlight about persons with disability and how the harassment and abuse they go through in South Sudan. Before I talk about persons with disability, I need to talk about the poor governance we have in South Sudan. We have poor governance. We are lacking policies. We have the policies, but they're not being implemented. That's why our persons with disability are facing a lot of violence and harassment in the country, and the government is doing less to stop the violence that is happening to them. Persons with disability, let me talk about the socio-economic status of theirs. Socially, they are isolated. This is because in South Sudan, persons with disability are perceived to be taboo, like in many cultures, not all the cultures, but in South Sudan context, persons with disability are like taboo to many people. They are isolated, so they don't have, they cannot access informations like on SRA, HRA. It is really difficult for them to know about their rights and also, their health rights. It is so hard for them. That's why I'm talking about social isolation. Then when we talk about economic status, majority, like 94% of women and girls living with disability are poor. So this has made them, like, expose them to more risks, you see. So you get a young girl who is not supposed to get married, but because of the economic situation, there's no one to take care of her, and also the family cannot do anything. The economic situation forces the young girl to marry. And the second thing is, she's not aware about her, she's not aware about her rights, so she just go like that, and this results into complications, like internal complications, a problem at birth, and lastly, they lose their lives. We have lost a lot of young girls and women with disabilities in South Sudan because of their economic status and also social isolation. They don't get information about their rights. And also, to talk about forced marriage, we have negative We have negative, like bad cultural practices in South Sudan that results to the violation of the rights of persons with disabilities. We have a very bad culture, as I talked about, that some considered to be taboos, and there's this perception in our communities that someone who is disabled is because God is punishing them. Maybe the parents or their grandparents have done bad things, and now that is the result. God is punishing them. So you get someone who is in school, because for us here we have persons with disability are not, like, there's no inclusive education here. We are just trying to come up with inclusive education by advocating for the rights of these people, and also engaging government stakeholders to first understand the rights of persons with disability, and also changing the community's perception, negative perceptions about these people. We don't have inclusive education here. You will only get 3% or 4% of persons with disability in schools. They don't have ramps. The infrastructures are not inclusive. They cannot access classrooms, and they're not being supported. And also teachers are not trained on how to talk to these people. For example, there are some who are visually impaired, they are physically impaired. Like, there are so many forms of disability, and some need specific teachers to be trained. You know, these special needs supposed to be that the teachers are supposed to be trained to take care of these students and pupils well in school. So we are lacking teachers also who can understand our persons with disability in schools, like our children with disabilities in school, and also yes, to understand them, and also how to talk to these people in like their fellows, their colleagues in schools, to understand that these are humans, like they're not animals, you see. So you get a child with disability having that zeal to go to school to be like other people, but because of stereotypes and negative perceptions, you feel bad, you feel traumatized, because they talk very bad things about you, you know. So it is really a problem in South Sudan. So persons with disability, also the second thing is that I talked about policy that doesn't govern these people. It is a bit challenging for us to help persons with disability at our level. Yes, we can do it, but when it reaches that level of taking legal action, in case someone violates their rights or like abuse them sexually, because these are three things: a woman in a war zone country, and also disabled. These are, it is really triple vulnerability. So we take some of these issues serious as activists that works with women and girls. So you reach some extent where you take legal action, and nothing is done. They just take, they feel, why should I punish someone for, you know, that negative perception, stigma. It's too much for us. Yeah, too much for us. Yeah. And the second thing is that early marriage, you know, they don't as they our majority of our parents don't care about your feelings, what your needs in South Sudan. I talked about bad cultures. Yeah. So even if you're disabled, but they, because of the economic situations, they want something from someone, they feel you're ready. You're ready to get married. Even if you're 10 years, you like underage, they force you into marriage. And it can lead to loss of life. You know, you're disabled, you cannot take care of a family very well, and a man forces you. And you see that negative perception of men, that women are just women. They're supposed to, they're supposed to keep quiet even if they are harassed. It's still here too much. If you start talking about my rights, you start empowering young girls to speak for their right, and start also ignore some of the things their partners are doing, or try to advise. They might think, they will start thinking that now you're spoiled and you think you're a man, like a lot of bad things, you know. So it has also resulted into a divorce, high high level of divorce in our country for empowered women and girls, more especially these persons with disability. You get someone is empowered, was living happily, but she has been violated, abused. Now you bring her, you train her on how to advocate for her right, how to claim her right, how to speak up for herself. So, no one can abuse you if you know you're right. So if you start safeguarding yourself from the harassment and abuse is when you face another discrimination or another stress. Because now if your man divorces you without consent because you're trying to safeguard yourself and trying to let him know that this is wrong, what you're doing to me is bad, then it leads to that. So a lot of persons ability, yes, they're facing a lot of discrimination, violence, and harassment in South Sudan because of that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Priska, for sharing. We still have a long way to go, but we hope for the changes. We hope to see changes coming. And there is someone in the chat that was asking that South Sudan it's more dangerous. How does people go to school? But I think Priska has talked about that. It's still a challenge, and even to those who are able to go there, is still non-inclusive schools and system. Before I move on to the changes we want to see, like what setting the tone for what the world needs us to see, I would like to hear from Doha. How does women and young women in Myanmar are managing the stress? I would say I would say stressing that, because these restrictions and violences has generated much of the tension around the world actually. How are women, especially those from YWCA, those, because you're working with YWCA, how are you even working around that? How are you setting that counteract, how these young women are managing? What are they doing to manage this high stress or tensions out there? Over to you, Dor.
Thank you. So we as YWCA staff are facing challenges like data cost is 85% higher than before, sometimes internet access breakdown, increase in commodity price, and the power outage is progressively abnormal, which means we have only 4 hours of electricity. We need to turn off our phone while passing through the checkpoint, so traveling time is longer than usual. And the next one is medical worker and teacher who are involved in civil disobedience movement are restricted to go abroad. And obviously we aren't allowed to go outside at night until late 6 p.m. So we counteract it by avoiding such things, like we don't deal with the military at all, and we carefully discuss before we deliver the program and find out the possibility for solution. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Shiva. Although she says it in few words, but they are doing great things. They are touching lives in different ways. And our panelist has mentioned different things that are really touching, and women are doing a great work in their countries. Uh, what was surprisingly for me from Iran, from Ukraine, from Myanmar to South Sudan, the access to electricity. And we know the role of media in this fight. And when you don't have power, don't have electricity, even sharing information is something that is an issue. Also, Priska mentioned something that needs to be set a tone on: lack of policies that are inclusive, that are helpful, that are supporting women in different issues that are facing. I think even though we are doing things, we are changing, we are fighting, we are reading the struggle, but there are changes we want to see. There are changes that we wish to achieve as activists in this fight. There are changes we need to see. Much has been done, as you have been hearing from our panelists. Women's out there doing, they are trying, they are making what they can do in their powers, and they are achieving great things. But as Priscilla mentioned something about the 72% of teen mothers in South Sudan, the high level of gender-based violence, because being a girl, being a woman in times of war, you are at high risk of getting raped, and being raped might risk you to getting pregnant, unwanted and unplanned pregnancy from even men that you don't know. That lack of policies that are helpful, the isolation, there is that early marriage that we still need to raise voices on. That's why we are here today. We are trying to raise those voices, but there are changes that we need to see from all levels, from community level to the policymakers level, to the power holders people, the international organization. It's what we was hearing from Casey in her opening remarks. She said we advocate for governments and international institutions to acknowledge this work that are being done, to support this work that is being done. I would like to go round for our all panelists, and please tell me, what are changes that you would like to see? What do you want the world to know? How do you want the international community, the people who are here in this panel, because people who are on this call, people who are following right now from different people, from different places that they are, what do you want them to hear? What are changes that you want them to support from where they are? I would like to go around from Shiva, Elena, Dora, and Priska, just using as short time as you can. What are the changes you want to see? What do you want this international community to support in, for us to see the changes that women are doing from community level to the worldwide, and we can put an end to these situations that put us on so much harm? Over to you, Shiva.
Well, thank you. I think that's for us, that's clear. We'd like to live in a country that where basic human rights are protected, the country where women are not second-class citizens and they have the same basic rights as everyone else. People in Iran want to get rid of this government that is based on discrimination and treats women and minorities unfairly. Instead, they want a government that is chosen by people, a government that respects the rights of people, women, and the freedom of speech. In this situation, the world's leaders, I think, should pay close attention to what is going on in Iran. We expect them to keep putting pressure on Iran to at first release detained people, especially activists and HRDs. We expect them to not give weapons to Iran that can be used to kill people and put down protests. They can also support protesters by providing them with access to technology, the technology that is needed. Because of the sanction, many tech companies can't offer services to Iran, while the government is also shutting down internet access and trying to filter everything. The tech companies must be able to offer every services that is useful and helpful for people in Iran in this situation. Also, I think the demands of Iranian women must be supported by feminist and women's organizations around the world, because this fight is not only ours. This struggle belongs to our sister in Afghanistan, in Syria, in Egypt, in Iraq, in Turkey. This progressive uprising, which some people even call a feminist revolution, has a power to change not only Iranian society, but also the face of the whole region. Many women in the Middle East have already been inspired by this uprising. It could be the start of a fight against fundamentalism and systematic discrimination against women in the region. From this point of view, this uprising should be taken seriously and supported by the politician and women's rights organization and feminist group all over the world.
Thank you, Shiva. Country where women are respected and they have freedom of speech, and the authority that are chosen by people to work for them, to serve them. Thank you. So as we move to Elena, are you there? Someone in comment said what is happening in our countries needs more than players, needs more than praying for these countries. Over to you, Irina. What do you think the world should know? What changes do you want to see? What do you want from the people who are here, who are following now, who can do something from, because even a piece of voice, a single voice can add something to advocacy work that is being done. Over to you, Irina. What changes do you want to see? What do you want from these international communities to help?
Yes, sure. I really believe that if every voice join in stopping the war, we can change it all together. I would like to pay attention to the fact that Ukrainian is being killed every day. This war must be stopped as soon as possible so that civilian women and children could live. Winter is coming, families live in a cold houses now without the necessary medical care and food, without heat and electricity. And now many cities in Ukraine as well. Every day we fight for our independence and the right to independently create the future of our country. We help each other and the country. We have gathered around us the support of the civilization world. And before war, we had a population about 50 million people. And if this doesn't stop this war, then Ukraine will dead as a country. Such cities as Kharkiv, Mariupol, Liman, Borodyanka, etc., where more than 80% of the cities has been destroyed and whipped off the ground. We are in an economic and mental crisis now. Ukraine now need any help that Europe can provide: warm clothes, food, financial assistance, support in social media. Any voice is so needed for us and important, and we're so grateful for any help from any country, any person, because we have to stop it as soon as possible. It's so important for us, for Europe and our country, because every woman and child want to live, and we want to give to our children peace world, peace country in a warm house.
Thank you, Irina. Thank you so much. We need to heritage, our children, our younger siblings, a peace country where everyone can sleep and doesn't worry about where should I sleep tonight, where will I be tomorrow. Going to you, Doha, you're working with YWCA, you're making different changes there, but I'd like to know in a context of what is needed at the ground, what are resources that you see that are missing to achieve challenges, to achieve the goals of peace and making women and other population in general feeling safe? What are resources that you see are missing to achieve different changes that you want to see in Myanmar? Over to you, Do.
Well, we all know every country has their own problem. 2021 and 2022 are the years of mass death. We might feel guilty, but what we can do is share our love. And the change I would like to see is a society or community or environment or an atmosphere where young women have the freedoms of mobility, freedom to express themselves with voice. And I like to see that in a more inclusive future for the country will require a national debate, including some difficult reflection. And then for every country, communities should be free to celebrate their ethnic heritage and cultural identity. And I'd like to see global policy maker, national leaders, and the wider society should listen to the voice of youth and women, address the issue that are affecting the leadership journeys of women. Myanmar need democratic government led by people like people government. So please listen to us. We all are clearly fighting in self-defense against a rapacious military junta. Leaders need to listen to subordinate. Yeah. And the needed resources are international community to take action from the voices of people from Myanmar, stand firm for justice and together with the peoples of Myanmar, and denouncing all human rights violation and call for international community to end violence in Myanmar. And the last one, sister around the world, please continue to support our people striking for justice and democracy and to end all forms of violence against civilians. Remember us in your prayer. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doha. The time is not on our side. I see conversation was still going on and we still have so much to share, but this was just setting a tone. We was raising voices and we hope the world are hearing, are listening. We want to see these changes coming and it's my fight, it's your fight. You have to do something on your side, doing something on my side. And when all those efforts are together, we can achieve something. It has been a pleasure and a great opportunity to be with Arne, the senior colleague from NCA. And as we are reaching on the conclusion, as we are remaining with some few minutes, we would like to hear from him, Alan, how can we do the allianship? Because these things is impossible without working together, without joining hands as female and male, as humanity. How can we do this to achieve the meaningful reconciliation, to help and to center survivors and to make a call to action out there for men also to do something and to join hands with women who are in this fight. Over to you, and please, we are glad to receive your remark about this. You're muted. You're muted. Please unmute yourself.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Let me just say that it's an honor for me as an old peace activist to be invited to this session and to be able to listen to all of you. It is really an honor. It's impressive. It has been a lot of learning for me to listen to you as peace and human women rights champions. So I just wanted to say, first of all, I've listened. You are great people. Thank you so much. With people like you, gender equality, human dignity for all, and sustainable peace sounds more possible. So please continue your good work. Thank you. I am going to try to share short two cases in a way that is linked to this alliance between men and women, because I think peace work needs to be inclusive. It needs to reach out to all, but also those who brings peace. We need to be diverse. We need to be inclusive. So definitely women needs to be part of that effort. Like Priska said, in some communities, that opportunity for women to be engaged and involved is limited and sometimes not even existing. And because of that, peace efforts are then also not becoming sustainable. We have tried to engage in a particular way in Ethiopia. You have heard about Ethiopia. It's also a context rampaged by violent conflict, especially over the last 3-4 years, destroying social fabrics in so many local communities, and gender-based violence and all these elements are part of this. And then to address, to work against this, it has been difficult in some areas to get the involvement of women, not because they didn't want to, but the culture is not there. So we have had an approach of trying to address gatekeepers, the so-called persons in a community who says yes and no to activities. And predominantly these people, at least in this context, are men, traditional leaders, religious leaders. But having taken the time and the efforts to reason with these people, it has worked out to be possible for them to open up the space, saying that there are no rules, there are no norms that should prevent any women from playing any role in peace building. So this has, in a way, created a new opportunity in many places. So by a small support, traditional groups and traditional ways of women's engagement in peace and in development has opened up. And we can see now that there are efforts in so many of these local communities where women and men, and often more so with women than men, that has been able to change the situation for hundreds of thousands of community members in these broken communities. So as soon as the door is open and the possibility is there, things can happen. And also by, as a pilot, as an innovation, engage also with psychosocial support together with community-based peace building. It has in a way changed the parameters, and women are so much involved to the extent that they go out in the streets among the corpses when the bullets fly in the air with their sticks, hammering the ground and say, stop shooting, stop fighting. It's not acceptable. I'm a mother. You cannot do that. And the fighters stop. So these are some local cultural related issues, but if the doors are opened, and sometimes men can be allied to open those opportunities, and then these efforts can be done and change can happen. I just wanted to share this. I don't have the time to elaborate it, but together, I think we can do a lot of difference. Thank you.
Thank you, Arne. Together we can achieve a lot of things, and I love that he said hearing from you makes peace achievement more possible. And with many more other women out there who are doing so much, peace is possible. With us joining hands, peace are possible. I'm seeing we are reaching at the end of our conversations. Thank you so much for being with us, the participants that we were together on Facebook, on Zoom. Thank you so much. I have seen only one person asking in the Q&A. Janet asked about the women in Ukraine. if you have been able to help with the shelter. Oh, okay. She missed out what Irina was sharing about a woman who wasn't able to get a shelter. She was asking if, as an organization, has been able to help. Irina, can you answer to that? And also add one sentence. I would like one sentence from you as your closing.
Excuse me. Can you please repeat the question? I didn't
She was
understand.
asking that she missed out. She missed out when you was talking about a woman who didn't get the shelter, if the organization helped.
Yes, so we try to help women who need, like, with family or with children to move themselves. We just now help our YWCA Ukraine help women with children who went from south of Ukraine to Kiev, because our organization are in Kiev. We help with money, with warm clothes, with accommodation, but it's difficult to do like a lot of, because we also
still,
like yes, we need like money for it, financial, yes, but we do that we try to do all we have, or we like we try to do. But if somebody want to help to these women, all help is needed.
Yeah, the doors are open for everyone to give the support.
If somebody wants also.
And one sentence from you, Irina. I want one sentence of closing from you.
Okay, if it's possible, I want to describe a little bit about our children who just now have experience in war. When our city was bombed and we heard the sound of sirens day and night, the pictures, a lot of pictures like was painted by children. And I want to show one picture, if it's possible.
As your
this is Ukraine crying. She's crying bloody tears. It is a watercolor painting. I understood that our children are also has experience in war in their own way. They do not show their fears and tears, but there is much more pain going on their souls, and we can't imagine. This is our Ukraine woman who is waiting for her husband from the war, the mother who lost her children in Bucha, and a woman who has raped by Russian soldiers, a woman who cannot feed her children because there has been no electricity in the house for 8 hours, a woman whose parent died under the rubble of the destroyed house. And this war continue, and I want to, that our children also has experience of war, and they take it inside
them
and don't show it, but we see this in pictures.
Yes, thank you, Irina.
Thank you.
That is a woman who needs you. And as the time is really rushing, please, Shiva, one sentence.
Thank you for having me today. I just wanted to say, if you would like to follow the situation of women human rights defender in Iran, the current situation and the current situation of this feminist uprising in Iran. You can follow Femina on the social media and also our website. You can see our reports and also our statement about the current situation in Iran. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shiva. Resources are there, just we need information that's based on evidences. And as Shiva shared, resources are there to get. One word from you, Priska.
Thank you so much. Though I didn't talk about the what I want from global human rights and the community, I'll just use 1.5 minutes. In South Sudan, the full magnitude of GBV problems are unclear and also underreported. It is so hard for you to get clear data on GBV cases, but when you come on ground is when you can really get that there are a lot of things, violence against women and girls. So for us, for international people to know about the data, like the percentage of GBV in South Sudan is a bit hard, and I apologize for that. What I can say is that yes, if you have the time and you have that thing, you have that heart for humanity, we can work together. You can also travel and come to South Sudan and experience what is here. We are here trying our best to stand firm and defend women and girls in South Sudan, defend their rights and also advocate for their rights. But we need more of international human rights defenders like you and me, everyone. So we really need your help in South Sudan. Thank you so much.
Yes, the world, please hear the voice from Priska from South Sudan. We need you. We need you to do something. We need you to reach to these changes we want to see. And she mentioned something important, data. Data are evidence-based, are the things that gives the reality from the ground. Over to you, Do.
First and foremost, I'd like to thank you all for your active listening. I'd like to express Davis usually says symbols of peace, but a belief is the thing which to strengthen peace. And people don't want war, but if they were, they have to suffer all the bad consequences. So there is no good of destroying peace. We all definitely have opportunity to rebuild the world and create a better place across intersectionalities and intergenerationality. So Yaraka, thank you all.
Thank you. The intergeneration needs to work on this together to achieve what we want to achieve. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure moderating this session, and I have also learned more. I have gained more, and I see that we still have a way to go. And what Alna shared with us, we need to join hands. We need to work together to achieve the changes we want to see. We are still sharing our messages on the Week Without Violence in World YWCA. You can join us. You can visit our social media platforms and share your message. As we stand in solidarity with women and young women out there who are facing gender-based violence, who are struggling with their lives. You can join us. You can go to Twitter. We are on Facebook, World YWCA, and you can share your message about standing in solidarity with women and young women. As we are closing, we are going to share a short video. It's a poem from South Sudan, poems that are shared and for you all, for us who are trying to see changes today. And that will be our bye-bye message to everyone who has joined us. If you can put your video on and we take a photo of this great moment we shared, of this time we had together, you're welcome to put your video on as we are praying the today poem. Thank you for joining us, Facebook and the Zoom. Thank you.
Today, I embrace my own name. the one my ancestors crowned me with. Woman, I love the jiggles that comes with the sound of my real name. Today, I am teaching my sisters to embrace their real names too. I tell them they are not Marasakis, in them lies a seed that can feed this nation out of starvation. I tell them they are the rivers sustaining lives. I tell them they are not their pains, they are not their scars, they are not the marks that the society have imprinted on their backs. I tell them, woman, you are light, you are God's favorite creation.
Thank you, everyone. Women, you are a gift, a gold from the Creator. Thank you. See you.
Thank you so much.
It was a pleasure being with you all. Bye.
My honor.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.